Let me switch all profanity off. I've started recording. Hey folks, welcome to a cold wintry Australia, both in Victoria and in Queensland. Welcome to Maddie from Radio Free Earth Dawn, who's in Brisbane.
Hello. Yep, lovely and cold.
Lovely and cold. Perfect one day, miserable the next. Oh no, wait, that's Victoria. Except the perfect one day bit. Right.
Well.
So, today, I really should have got that catapult back out to show the listeners, watchers. Today's effort's going to be some ogres. And I really did want to do these last week, but I just haven't had the chance. So, we're going to start with making them look as much like Donald Trump as we can with this colour. I figure they're sort of in the same IQ range, so we'll be fine. Alright, we can turn the politics back off now. You were going to ask a question. What was the question?
The question was, what are we painting today?
Ogres. I like answering questions before they're asked. I have a new set of goggles on. I'm getting used to them, but I may have to swap them out because they're giving me a bit of a headache after wearing them for a while.
Can you do something to the headband to make it more comfortable?
Well, I adjust the tension, but I don't know, it's a bit... They have a... I don't know, this other... I don't know, they're slightly more elongated and I have a very round head apparently. So it's, I don't know, maybe it's like a pair of shoes, maybe I just need to wear them and break them in. But we'll see. I've also been up a very long time. I'm not sleeping at the moment, so...
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, yeah. Life. It is. As you said earlier, you're breathing, so it's better than it could be.
Well, if you're breathing, it can only go up from there.
Mm-hmm. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, breathing is fairly low.
Right above sex.
Oh, so many jokes. It's so inappropriate. Something about breathing only needing to be happening for one of the people involved. Dish. Moving on now.
I have been painting skeletons this week, so yes.
And how's that going?
I think they look okay.
Yeah, good. You were a bit down on your Highlanders, so...
Yeah, well, honestly, they weren't that great. I kind of want to tear them down and start all over again, but I don't think it'll help.
What you need to do...
Not this soon.
No, yeah, what you need to do is complete a couple of hundred other miniatures, and then go back to the Highlanders.
Pretty much.
So how many skeletons have you got to do?
I've done 24. I'm up to zombies now.
Zombies?
Yeah, they're basically skeletons with clothes, in terms of details.
Right. And that's a unit of 12, or have you got 24 of them as well?
24, 2 different units of zombies.
Right.
And then after that, I'll try my humans and see where we're at after the Highlander debacle.
You're being pretty hard on yourself. I think it's a damn good result for a first attempt.
Well, thanks for saying so, but I mean, even I recognize they're not that great.
Well, I mean, you can say improvement required, but you go to any painter, any single painter, and they look at the last thing that they painted and they go, yep, improvement required. You have to start somewhere.
And here I was thinking I had reached the pinnacle of perfection with my skeletal swordsman.
Nope. This is a great colour. Jaundiced mythical beast.
So what color is it? It looks like sand yellow.
It's called Sunny Skin Tone.
Huh. Because it looks like what I've been painting bases with.
Right. Not sure how far they'd get calling a paint colour renal failure, but you know.
Well, it's a fantasy color.
Yes. I jest, of course, and all of those people who have suffered or are suffering renal failure. It isn't a joke. I recognise this. My father passed away from said problem. But it's Saturday morning and I'm in a bit of a black mood, so there you go.
Well, is there anything I can do to help cheer you up?
Talk to me about what you're going to do with these miniatures when you've painted them.
If they're like my Highlanders, they'll go back into a box and never see the light of day again. Ha 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 ha. Mostly I'm just painting for the joy of the fun of it.
Right, there you go.
Fun of the joy of, something
Yeah.
like that. So they'll end up on a shelf and look cool, like so many other things I've done over the years.
Well,
and then they'll go into a box and get forgotten about, like so many other things I've done over the years.
Well, hopefully they only go into a box and get forgotten about when they've been replaced on the shelf with other things.
Or when I move house, which is probably not that likely anytime soon.
Right. I get the impression you're in a rental. Is that right? No?
Sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah.
You're in a share place.
Yes, I am sharing. Just to my right and behind me, I have a bookshelf that's got nothing on it aside from some model kits, basically.
Right, there you go. Completed or uncompleted? As in, put together or in their boxes?
Completed.
Right.
Completed, displayed.
Yep.
So I will find a spot for them on there. Probably
Nice.
at eye height, on the eye height shelf.
Cool.
Of course, it's a black bookcase, so, great for lighting.
Oh, yeah. I assume it doesn't have lighting in it. It's just a bookcase.
Hell no, it's, it's an $80 IKEA job.
Ah, righto. Fair enough. Well, IKEA is better than Kmart.
Ooh.
Well, you ooh, we can have a debate about that. All of my display cabinets are IKEA. I love them.
I've...
Mixed success?
I was going to say, after last time, my last move, I couldn't get this bookshelf out of the door unassembled, so I had to drop it over the balcony.
Ooh. It
held up, but it's got a 6 or 7 degree lean in it.
Character. Isn't that what that's called?
I guess so.
You've got a story to tell about it. Somebody comes in, they look at your bookcase and go, man, that thing's not straight. And you go, yeah, let me tell you the story. Whereas,
well, yeah,
the reason my display cabinets aren't straight is because of the Muppet that assembled them. But that's, you know, hey, trying to get display cabinets level on carpet.
that would be a trick.
Yeah, one that I'm not capable of. And when I got them in and got them assembled and got them next to each other and got them secured to the wall and all that kind of stuff, and then adjusted them all so that the tops were the same height because OCD, and then went and looked at them 3 weeks later when they'd settled, they were all different heights again, and then adjusted them again so they were all the same height, and then figured out that the adjustment meant the doors didn't open anymore. Yep.
Well, that would be quite annoying.
I've learned to live with it. But I like them because there's 3 of them, they're all exactly the same, lined up next to each other along one wall. And I bought the lighting kits for them so I can turn all the lights on when the room is dark and I can just sit back and admire them. And I like that. Especially
It is good to sit back and admire.
Yes. Especially when most of the shelves are more than 50% full.
You'd always fill up the other 50% with unpainted, just to show, you know, seriously, I'm this good.
Well, yes, I could actually fill the entire things with painted. There's enough still in drawers and things that I could actually fill it. But I went through a process last weekend of rearranging so that I have space to put the completed Demonworld stuff as it's completed. So I also put away some D&D stuff because it was pre-painted, not painted by me. But but it looked good. I mean, there was a shelf full of painted D&D miniatures, so you know. And I happen to have one of the colossal red dragons that they produced 20 years ago. So as a centerpiece, it works quite well.
I suppose it would.
Yes, an 18-inch high, 25mm miniature. Miniature in quotes.
18-inch.
Yeah.
Gee, that's pretty impressive.
Yes, there's nothing miniature about it. It's along the same sorts of lines as the Star Wars Armada scale Superstar Destroyer. There's nothing miniature about it. Have you seen that model?
I don't believe so.
Right. I don't have one of those. I didn't have a spare $300 kicking around at the time.
300 at the time. What do they go for now? 1,200?
Oh, they're probably still 300, but they're not new release. So, and if they're still manufacturing them, they'll still be the same brick retail price. But I don't know how big a print run they did of them and whether or not they did another one. Dragon miniature. Again, not miniature.
Ah, yes. That's, wow. G'day, g'day.
Morning.
Clee! Oh yeah.
Yeah, not too bad yourself.
Good. You cold too?
I wasn't too bad until I took my beanie off to put my headphones and mic on. It's cold here though. The fire's on.
Right. I can't get over it. Wouldn't have ever have conceived that it could possibly be colder in Queensland than it is in Victoria at the same time of year.
Is it warm there, is it?
It's 10.
10?
Yeah.
Oh, I still beat you. It's 12.3 in the office.
Okay.
Yeah, but outside wouldn't be that.
It's 10.3 outside. Here.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be that here. I don't think.
It's 19 inside because I turned the heating on hours ago. Because I was up hours ago.
Why isn't it 19?
We got our first winter gas bill a few weeks ago. There was a little bit of bill shock.
Yeah. But, that last house I was in before I left Melbourne
Yeah.
had central heating
Yeah.
on gas.
Yeah.
And that winter bill was worth every cent.
Yeah. What,
So nice.
what was really interesting was we did a budget for utilities when we came down here. Now, we had gas when we were up in the country, but we had a gas heater, but we never really used it because we used the Canara. So we were constantly burning wood, and wood's not cheap. It's a lifestyle thing. You don't do it if you're looking to save money. And so when we moved out of there, we just poured the budget that we had for wood plus the budget that we had for electricity plus the budget we had for gas, and we split it into electricity and gas. And we've been here a year now. Today is a year from when we moved in, and we've got the bills now for a whole 12 months, and we can figure out where we were with the budgets. And despite that gas bill, we're actually spot on with the gas budget.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So partly the wood cost
Yeah,
went into the gas.
we're at.
Yep.
I think we budgeted it. What are we budgeted at? 3,400 or 3,600 or something a year for utilities.
Yeah, I don't know what else is.
And one of the things that makes a huge difference is that there's a solar setup on the roof. So,
Yep.
so we budgeted a certain amount for electricity and didn't realise we were going to get quite the rebates that we got out of the solar system. Because we didn't pay for the solar system. It's been up on the roof for 10, 12 years on this house.
Yeah, that's nice.
So, that's just an added bonus. Mind you, they've changed our rebate tariffs this year, so we're not going to get quite so much back. Because every dog and his owner's putting a solar system on their roof, so the power that we're producing is not worth as much.
You know how much you produce versus consume? Do you have that sort of info?
Yeah, we produce about 20%, a bit less. And it's a it's a 5 kilowatt system. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Most I've ever seen it produce on a really crystal clear summer's day. It wasn't a hot summer's day either. It was a relatively mild day, but it was really crystal clear, and the sun was at the right attitude in the sky. Our solar's split. 50% of it's north facing, 50% of it's west facing, and that was producing exactly 4 kilowatt hours, and that's the best I've ever seen out of it. So that's an 80% efficiency on a 5 kilowatt system.
Yep.
Which is not bad considering how long it's been on the roof.
No.
That's going to need mixing, sadly.
I had a go at cleaning the sensor on the camera this morning. There's two dust spots or 2 spots.
Right.
Get off.
And it's on the sensor, is it?
Yeah. That if you look in the images, one of them I showed you in the earlier images.
Yeah.
And it's still there on the half tracks I posted last night.
Right. I wasn't looking that close. I was looking at those on my phone. And yeah, the screen on my laptop is so dirty. Couldn't see a damn thing.
Yeah, it's the same case on my laptop that I was looking at, transferring the images to, and looking at.
Yeah.
Half of the spots are actually on the screen, not the photo.
This is an evil hobby.
Demons.
Well, no, it's just that you start taking photographs and it's like, well,
Yeah.
maybe I can use that camera for something else. It's like, I don't have time.
Yeah, well, what it's showing me now is all these things I should change every time I take a photo of a miniature. Plus, in those half tracks, I noticed that the color of the guns is yellow, whereas it should really be a bit more of a mahogany color.
Yeah, right. Oh, you're talking stocks.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But stocks left out in the sun, do all sorts of things, and no, you know what I mean.
No, it's just the anal retentive in me is like, no.
I had this conversation with another mate of mine who was painting late war Germans, Western Front Germans, and he was being really precise with his camouflage smocks, and I'm like, dude, it's 1944. These guys wore whatever they could find.
Yeah.
If they were cold, they would go scrounging around in people's houses for stuff. The guys on the Eastern Front in 42, 43, 44, they're all in Russian peasant clothing because they were cold. It's like, yeah, but you know, you can't do an SS unit all dressed up in peasant clothes, can you?
Call it the Home Guard.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because by late 1943, their supply system was all over the shop. It hadn't collapsed, but it was all over the shop, and so, you know, replacements had come in nice shiny uniforms, and the guys that they were replacing were in the older uniforms. You know, it's perfectly valid to have completely mismatched units. So, you know. And because individual crews were responsible for painting their vehicles, all bets are off, right? As to what the vehicle actually ended up looking like.
Yeah, it's true.
G'day, James.
I felt like I stepped into a World War II history lesson there.
You did. Better than stepping in something on the ground, though. Well, actually, maybe I shouldn't say that.
It's just part of a normal day.
You homesteaders, you must be used to that kind of thing.
Yep. Pig shit, sheep shit, animal excrement of many varieties.
It's like my working week. Just a reminder.
Thankfully, we don't have cows. That's all I can say.
Oh, we do.
Or elephants.
You would believe how crowded the rooms are at work with all of those elephants in them. Clee gets to laugh because he knows I've had a really bad week.
Hey, nice job with those Samsut, Maddie. Just saying.
No, thank you very much.
See, it isn't just me.
No, I would tell you if they look like crap, because that seems to be the topic for the last 2 minutes. So there we go.
You can't make me laugh when I'm holding a brush smaller than size O. Things will go horribly wrong. Horribly wrong.
Break out the one hair paintbrush specifically to do those eyeballs.
Yeah, talk to Clee about eyeballs.
Yeah, man, I was trying to paint them on those dwarves. And I'm like, I can't even see these damn things. Anyway, I'm poking the brush around. Get the macro out to take a photo. Half of them aren't even on the eye. The rest look drunk. Now I'm going to go back and repaint them all.
Because you bought a macro lens. See?
You didn't do the good old, the good old tricks. Like paint the eyeballs black or white, or choose your color, and then just kind of fill in the iris until you get it to the requisite size that they don't look like they're popping out.
No, I just did a dot of white and a dot of black, but they didn't line up too well.
So they're cross-eyed crossbowmen. There you go.
Yep.
And that's okay. If you look in the rule book, you'll find that the crossbowmen have no range detail, so it doesn't matter. Oh dear, we have to do something about that. Did you end up ordering a set of the goggles, Clee?
They haven't come yet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes, I'm definitely going to I'll redo them when I get those.
Yeah. You're going to get a pair, Matty? Or are you just going to struggle on with your Mark 1 eyeballs?
My Mark 1 eyeballs are pretty ruined. I do actually have a pair of goggles.
Right.
They're JCAR specials.
Oh, okay. Don't think there's anything wrong with those.
There's quite a lot wrong with them, but they work.
Right. You are very critical of yourself and your recruitment.
That's because I know it's all crap.
How on earth then are you still watching me slap paint on these things?
And for our
because
viewers,
it makes me
the
feel
Wheel of the Week
better
is
about
crap.
myself.
You need positive reinforcement, Maddie.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm giving him as much as I can. It's fine. He's doing a damn good job as far as I'm concerned. For someone who hasn't painted miniatures effectively ever, because of the amount of time since you would have done any in the past, I think the results that you're producing are brilliant.
Yeah, did you do the elves? Is that what you were talking about?
No, there's a... Did you post those Samsung in the...
They're in the 1879 ones.
Yeah.
That should get me some Demonworld.
Have you got access? That's a public channel, isn't it, Matty? The 1879 one, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're logged in there, Clee, you can see what we're talking about.
You should definitely get some Demonworld, Matty.
You should. Oh, and a big shout out to Martin and Paul. I got a delivery. So now I have some humans to paint. Knights and peasants and rabbles and... My partner actually gave me an idea for some of those knights. They've got really elaborate headdress on them. And she said, why have they got chickens on their heads? So I might go and look at some Bersaglieri for some inspiration on how to paint those. Because nothing says chicken on your head like Bersaglieri.
You can do some crossover, Matty. You can grab some of the goblin giant fleas, you know, and that's kind of perfect for 1879 for the horribleness that happened in that particular scenario. If you know the one I'm talking about.
I want one of those gigantic spiders with the fortress on its back. That's what I want.
They are awesome. It's yeah, there's just no two ways about it.
In fact, I'd go so far as to say I want two.
They're pretty awesome.
They are. So how's the weather in the middle of America, James?
A little cloudy, overcast. Pretty nice actually at the moment. Nice, comfortable temperature. How about down under? Well, there's down under and there's down under.
It's cold, apparently.
Cold enough.
I was saying to Matt very early on in the conversation that I watched a video this morning while I was lying awake in bed at 3 of them de-icing a plane in Brisbane. And I'm like, what?
Wow. When was that?
Well, I don't know when exactly they took the video, but
There you go.
couldn't conceive of it being necessary. But there you go.
Yeah.
Well, things have changed pretty markedly, so I know the weather patterns in New Zealand are totally bizarre. I'm from Nelson originally, so middle of the two islands on the top of the south there, if you know any New Zealand geography.
North coast
And
of the South Island.
Yep. And the weather there is usually pretty temperate. You know, it doesn't get extremely hot, doesn't get extremely cold, and while it might be a little dry sometimes, it's pretty balanced. But you know, they've been having floods and all manner of craziness. So yeah, maybe it's the end times.
I've actually been there.
You been to Nelson,
I have.
Tasman? Wow, there you go.
Father-in-law was flooded in those floods just recently.
The ones over in Motueka or that area? Where's he based?
He is at the top of the South Island on the
West Coast?
western side.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a little
Yeah.
in a little valley somewhere up near the. They got a whole lot of sounds there or something, don't they?
Well, that's
Yeah,
further
at the
south.
at the top there's the Marlborough Sounds,
Mm.
which is
That's right.
a series of hills and
Yeah,
all
so
kinds
it's
of
not
stuff.
far from there.
Yeah. I know the West Coast got hit pretty hard as well. So it's just, I mean, West Coast always gets a lot of rain because of just where it is geographically, but more than they pretty much have had for a very, very, very long time. So And over here is, talking to friends who are further north and on the west coast here in the States. The bushfires are just, everywhere is just smoke and fires. So we're kind of lucky where we are, touch wood.
Well, we know how that goes.
Probably jinxed it. We'll probably burn up tomorrow.
Better than the smoke and mirrors from Trump.
Well, maybe.
Better than our peerless president's claims today that 350 million Americans have been vaccinated, which is quite amazing because there's only 331 million Americans. So,
how many have been vaccinated twice?
Just overachieving.
yeah, it's all right because 200 million of us died from COVID in the last, in the last couple of years, according to him as well. So, I guess math is not a strong suit. But anyway,
he's a politician. Facts are not his strong suit.
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah.
That's right. I know some project managers who are budding politicians.
Yep. I think it comes with the job descriptions to a degree.
That's right. Can't get onto the topic of work again though, because I'll just get all maudlin and miserable.
No, we'll just avoid it.
Yeah.
So how many more orcs do you have to do? He said, changing the subject subtly.
Do I need to talk about individual orcs, or can I talk about it in terms of number of packets?
I thought last time we chatted, Maddie and I had decided that you were going to name them all individually and give them character histories. Mm-hmm. Wasn't that the case, Maddie? Yeah,
absolutely right.
Sure.
So you can stat them up for the forthcoming Demonworld role-playing game.
Why do I suddenly dislike you both intensely?
There, it'll be okay.
It will be.
Shh.
Wasn't very good. I think somewhere in the order of 35 packets
of
orcs. Yeah.
My gosh. Left?
Yes.
How many have you done?
110 or 115 or something. Not packets, figures.
Yeah, right.
And I've only scratched the surface of those blokes.
It's a pretty extensive range for those. Yeah.
Yeah, I realise there's so many there.
Well, there's 700 SKUs for all the factions. So, and the humans that turned up, the Empire, which are getting renamed, but for argument's sake, in 3rd edition they're called Empire. That was 45 packets. And I figure out if I'm painting 2 packets a week, I've got a year's work just in Demonworld painting.
Yeah, I remember manually loading up the SKUs into the shop back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It was
that would have been
an exciting job, shall we say.
That would have been painful. I did volunteer to do the updates on the photographs, but they haven't taken me up on that offer yet. Something about me having better things to do was muttered.
Was that putting all photos of the stuff you've painted into the
Yeah, into the
shop.
website, in the web shop.
Oh, nice. That'd be good.
It would be. It's not happening. This is why I volunteered to do it.
Right. And they told you, no, you got better things to do and we'll just not do it.
Well, they didn't say, no, we'll just not do it. They just said, we're not doing it yet. To be fair, nobody said that either. It's just the conversation hasn't gone anywhere. One half of RPE's on holiday at the moment. There's only 2 of them, so I guess there's only so much they can do.
Well, you can only do so much in your 1 hour of freedom per day, Dan. That's all I can say. So
I don't get an hour of freedom a day, James.
45 minutes?
Well, okay, so maybe we need to define what freedom is. Like, when I'm up in the morning and I've had my shower, like, I'm working. So either for the day job or, more likely, it's for FASA. And then that rolls into my day job, and I do my day job, and that I roll out of that into dinner, and once dinner's done, I roll back into FASA, and I finish up 9:30, 10 o'clock, and that's every day. But if you consider that the work that I'm doing for FASA is enjoyable, which it is, then you could probably consider that to be freedom.
This is the part where I say one of us, but I can't say that I can't say that anymore. So
No, but it's not from the perspective of you being a part of the whole FASA Games thing, but one of us from the perspective that you're mad enough to try and make money out of your hobby and work silly hours at it.
that's a necessary evil. I know back in the day it was a similar thing as well. You'd working like 60 hours a week was pretty much an average work week in IT.
Mm-hmm.
Plus dealing with the kids, marriage, of course, so there's all the extra time that you need there. And then on top of that, trying to find at least 40 hours a week, if not more, to basically pump into a nascent publishing business. So, yeah.
Sleep is
but
optional.
as you quite rightly, sleep is very much optional. Yep. Enough sleep is enough.
I'm finding at the moment that I'm existing on 4. That's probably about as much as I get now. Doesn't help when you lie there for a couple of hours dreaming about stabbing your managers.
In a Romanesque kind of way, you know, Ides of March and all that kind of stuff. Or
I told him, Julie, don't go.
hey, I'm holding a toga party. Why don't you come along?
Yep. It's just, yeah.
I recommend you wear a red toga.
Mm-hmm. Crimson. This guy has got a skull. He's holding a head by its hair. This guy has a skeletal hand hanging out of his back pocket. There are stories there. It's interesting.
So have you named him yet?
This one's Bob. This one's Bob, which is Bob spelt backwards. And this one's Kate. Because
Short for Bob.
Kate's short for Bob.
Blackadder references for the win.
See, I know what kind of people you all are. This is very scary.
Well, from an 1879 perspective, you will have read the, or you may not have, Maddie may have, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but Sergeant Eccles, one of the poor guys who's involved in trying to get the hat through the rabbit hole back to Earth, not very successfully. But you get bonus points if you know the Eccles reference, for those who are Spike Milligan fans.
Yeah. I haven't watched enough of Spike Milligan. Like we were talking about the Goons. I think that was last week.
We are definitely talking about the Goons.
All right. My parents did listen to that stuff, but I was only a wee tacker, so.
Little Easter eggs are little Easter eggs.
Yep.
It's part of the fun. You get to throw them in.
There was something on one of the BattleTech groups in Facebook yesterday. Somebody finally, and I don't know how long they've been playing the game, but they finally discovered the J. Edgar hover tank. And we're like, goodness me. That was in the 3026 book. This is circa 1986. That joke has been there. So, yeah. And it upset him. He was upset about the fact that somebody could put such a stupid name on a vehicle in BattleTech, and I'm like, okay, you obviously haven't immersed yourself in this, because there's plenty of stupid stuff in there.
Yeah, some people take life too seriously.
Yeah.
It's way too short to be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Just get on with it.
Like when
Enjoy.
he thinks the rest of the BattleTech universe is sensible.
Exactly.
Exactly. The one thing that I really like about BattleTech beyond anything else is there are no good guys. No good guys, no bad guys. Everybody just is.
It is a reality. There is, a lot of gamers do take their games, and I'm probably going to get taken to task for this if anyone ever does it, a little too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Cough, 40k, cough.
Yeah, I once saw an argument about the heat of a plasma gun.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think you guys get it.
It's like, yeah.
yeah. It's like we were talking about this a couple of weeks back. Fan is in many cases short for fanatic, with a lot of the stuff that kind of comes with it. But and I mean, I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, because being passionate about something is something that should be celebrated. But being over passionate, it's a whole different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
So.
The ends of those conversations normally end up something along the lines of go leave your parents' basement, go outside, get some fresh air and some perspective.
Trying to fight the urge to go out to my barn and get my big box of Demonworld miniatures.
Why fight it? It's
Well,
inevitable.
it means I then have to go and spend money on replacing paints, because I know that my paints are pretty much done. So
Again, I'm not seeing the issue here.
well, it means spending money. So, and that's a challenge at the moment. But then again, there's a satisfying challenge of actually painting something. So, damn it. Why can I hear Ross laughing quietly in the background?
Sell some more zucchinis.
Yeah.
You flooded the local market. You're done.
No, I pulled 2 zucchinis, just 2 out of the garden, and it was like 18 pound. It's whatever that is, 9 kilos of zucchinis,
Yep.
close enough to.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just in 2, and there was a few more that I found as well. So yeah, I'm swimming in zucchini.
What's the thing?
There is a cure for that.
There's a cure? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Send them over to you?
Oh, they're probably not going to last that long. No, what you need is like 3 kilos of butter and several dozen heads of garlic.
Oh, yum. Yeah. I've actually been making, because we have our garden's basically just going stupid. So, but the biggest challenge we have is that our kids are not huge vegetable eaters. So, but zucchini is perfect for that. It's the perfect stealth vegetable. You can throw it into almost anything.
And it disappears.
And it disappears. So I've now got a marinara, homemade marinara recipe because our tomatoes are coming through. Hey, I said tomato, I didn't say tomato. Wow. So good to say tomato. So I'm saying dance instead of dance. Oh no, wait, Australia says dance. Okay, forget that. All right. Anyway, as I was saying, and the stealth vegetables, because there's nothing to do with painting Demonworld minis. We're all about stuff here. I've got a recipe which basically uses a good chunk of zucchini, and it hides it into the marinara. So that actually worked out pretty well. And the kids will eat marinara. They love marinara. We go through that like crazy. So, but now I'm thinking of zucchini and butter and garlic. Damn it!
Well, we took your mind off your Demonworld miniatures, so there you go.
Yeah, you did. Thanks for that. But now I'm thinking about those again now too. So we're back to the beginning. Fantastic.
We specialise in circular references.
The reason I mentioned the garlic and the butter was because I was one of those kids. I detested zucchini cordially in my childhood and my teens. And it wasn't until I started living on my own in country Queensland that the local pub had a $15 rump steak and veggies, and I had that for dinner 4 or 5 times a week. And it was always with garlic zucchini. And I got a boxing around the ears from the owner / chef who for sending back garlic zucchini. Is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And so I tried it, and it was a revelation, and now I love zucchini. Garlic and butter. That's your winner.
It's an easy solution to a lot of things, but yeah, I basically cut it up and roast it. So I just roast it, bake it. So I use a bit of garlic, onion, Parmesan cheese is always good on top as well. So the big challenge with it is getting the temperature right, so it doesn't turn mushy, which is a bit of an art, but trial and error, shall we say. But kids will eat that. They also worked out that if you don't give them anything else, it's like, well, this is it. And you get a cut. It's this, or as my father used to say, a glass of water, and I'll look out the window. But yeah. But we're growing stupid amounts of vegetables at the moment. I've got these things called tromboncinos. I think we talked about them a couple of weeks back. It's kind of it's a squash. So if you pick it early, it's like a zucchini. You cook it, eat it just like a zucchini. But if you leave it, it turns into a squash. The skin hardens, and you can store it like any other winter squash. And these things were just an experiment this year because they're resistant to parasites. So these things are just taken over. They're just insane. My garden is like something from a Wyndham story, it's the Triffids have arrived, and they're flowering everywhere, and I don't really want to go treading out into the garden too much because I really don't know what's going to happen. So it's pretty scary.
You're taking notes, Glee?
Yeah. I got chickens, so they destroy that.
Oh,
Yeah, I got chickens as well, and we've got ducks, and my pigs love anything that you basically throw at them. They're just perfectly happy. Vegetables, whatever.
Yeah.
unwanted door-to-door salesman.
What kind of chickens you got, just out of curiosity?
Some couple of Isa Browns, couple of they're a silky bantam cross, I think, and some Haracoons, I think.
So you're raising them for meat and eggs, or primarily eggs?
Eggs mostly. I'm not opposed to the meat side of things, but the kids are pretty tough on that front. They don't want to do any of that business or have anything to do with that, so it makes it a bit harder for me. So.
Yeah, that's a that one's a tricky one. We've gone through that as well. It's because we generally know where our meat comes from, so it is what it is. If you like meat, but yeah, for the longest time the kids are always of you just go to the grocery store and the meat just basically comes out and it comes in packets. It's like, well, no, it's not kind of really where it comes from. So it's a whole re-education thing there.
Yeah, well, I mean, mine know where it comes from, but
it's they kind of it's pet kind of thing.
Yeah, and then they're just.
Little.
I mean, I grew up in a different time, man. My job was to pluck the damn things, or gut them, be it rabbits or chickens or whatever it was. It wasn't to have pets. It was to clean up after my dad had done all the killing. So, different time.
Very much so. Yeah, I grew up on farms and dairy farms and stuff, so.
We could have rabbits up here. It's the one thing I do miss.
We have rabbits as well. My daughter's got those.
You've got cane
She's not
toads,
sure.
Clee. Come on. What do you need?
They're not as good eating. They're good for licking, but not so good for eating.
Are they hallucinogenic? No, just.
No, just an incredible poison that puts you out of your mind.
Yeah. Instead of bicycle day, it's cane toad day.
Yeah.
You ride your cane toad home.
There you go. There's some new minis in the making.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Giant
Right.
cane toads would probably be an 1879 thing for sure, Matty.
Oh, maybe.
I reckon we could do some lizardmen on Toad Cavalry for Demonworld.
That'd fly.
Well,
And the shaman's basically holding toads that they hallucinate with, which they basically
licking toads.
licking toads.
You make a lick roll. That's great.
I, for one, welcome my Batrachian overlord. Yeah.
So many good ideas. Somebody writing this stuff down.
I actually am.
Excellent.
Speaking of toads, have you seen the League of Gentlemen, the British comedy series?
No.
This is a local town for local people. Oh, you should definitely look that up.
Right.
It's if you like Blackadder,
Oh, yeah.
very very smartly written, Very well acted. Totally offbeat humour. It's way up there, but it's not very well known. So
Yeah, definitely going to have to look that up.
not the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the movie, the
Which was good.
Steve Buckish movie,
I enjoyed
which
it.
was yep, no qualms here. But this is the League of Gentlemen.
The League of Gentlemen.
You probably could actually. That'd be quite good because I mean, you could do frogs and toads. So you could actually kind of do this whole amphibian thing.
Yeah, if a few salamanders in there.
Yep. I just need to find a sculptor that we can afford. Cough.
Well, on Earthdawn, the Skrang have House Hengioki. They have otters. They've trained giant otters 5 to 7 foot in length that go and attack riverboats and things.
Awesome.
So the precedent for Skrang, doing weird stuff with other animals is dubiously there. I don't care. It all revolves around the rule of cool. So
I am a big fan of the rule of cool.
the rule of cool is a cool rule. Now, Skrang riding salamanders up trees and things, that's an image. The little suckers on their feet.
We could add a little bit of a down under flavour to that, and instead of salamanders, you could have them on goannas.
That'd work. Gonna throw some platypus in there as well?
Yeah, giant platypi.
I saw one this morning.
Oh, really? Down in the creek?
Yeah, I'm about to get a coffee.
That's awesome.
Down in the creek.
In the creek.
In Ohio, it's a creek. It's
Yep.
not a creek. It's a creek. Gonna go down to the creek. But I can't say that because I keep slipping into my gutter South Auckland accent. So
Yes.
end up sounding like Korg on the Thor Ragnarok. So
Those movies must have been pretty good for you. Everyone now understands the Kiwi accent.
well, if you've got a South Auckland accent, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It is, because everyone talks like this, because it's just like what it is, and then you just kind of go do the thing, Good on you, man,
I'm sorry. Those whole sequences with the fat Thor, with them sitting on the couch playing PlayStation, was gold.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Absolute
He's a very, very clever
gold.
man.
My partner and her girlfriend are going to see this movie to see Hot Thor, and this fat, unshaven bum turns up on screen, like horrified. I'm like laughing my ass off.
Yeah, it's good that Taika's doing the Flash Gordon movie. He's decided to do it as live action. So
Oh, cool.
very much looking forward to that. Jojo Rabbit was exceptional, if you've ever seen that.
No.
Get a chance to see that.
Okay.
Seen that yet?
Yeah, it's definitely out there. Nobody else wanted to play Hitler, so Taika Waititi had to do it. So And now we've segued back to the original topic, which was German SS divisions wearing ad hoc uniforms.
Russian peasant garb. Yeah. Well, some of the guys were getting around in bed clothing, sheets and skins and whatever. They just found whatever they could, man. They were cold.
Yep, anything to try and stay warm. Yeah.
Well, alive.
Well, yeah, true. Sorry, I was understating.
Yeah.
Trying to explain that kind of Stalingrad stuff to the kids. It's like, here you go, here's some ammunition and a rifle. Here you go, here's some ammunition. Where's my rifle? Oh, when he dies, you get to use his rifle.
Yeah, that's right.
And the kids are like, It's like, what?
And that story about them driving T-34 tanks out of the factory and straight into combat is true. Because there was a tank factory in Stalingrad. Don't bother painting the thing, it's going to be dead in 10 minutes.
There was a thing I saw on the guy who actually invented the T-34, because he did it himself.
Yeah, he was in competition with Voroshilev. Yeah. Voroshilev, yeah.
But he had to battle prove it, so he decided to drive it.
He drove it to Moscow.
Yep,
Yeah.
here you go.
That's right.
Pretty
All the
amazing.
way there, didn't he?
Yep, he drove it all the way there
Except
and then all the way
he,
back again.
Didn't have a heater though, so he ended up dying of hypothermia. So
He got very, very sick.
very sick. Sorry, yeah.
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 He didn't die on that trip, but it wasn't very many years after that he died. Yeah. Compromised.
Yeah, didn't really
immune
get to
system.
see the results, shall we say? But yeah,
It's interesting as a mutual work acquaintance of Cleese and mine had his granddaughter as a lecturer at university. Can't think of his name, but yep, him of T-34 fame.
seriously,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
the joys of growing up in the Ukraine in the Soviet Socialist Republic era.
Pretty awesome tank, though, to be fair.
T-34
Mm-hmm.
did its job. Was exactly what it was
Yep.
supposed to be.
Exactly.
Have any of you guys seen the tank games that they're running in Russia?
You mean like Flames of War?
No, these are like they're like what would you call them? They're like the Olympic sports where you've got to do 5 or 6 different things, and you've got to be, you go from one. You go to one place and you do archery, and then you go to the next place and you do small ball rifle shooting, and then you go to the next place and I don't know, you throwing basketballs through a hoop or something. I'm making shit up, but it's that sort of multi-discipline sport. They're doing these with tanks, and there's 2 variants of it. There's the modern variant where they get all of the armies that have bought Soviet equipment over the years. They send tank crews, their best tank crews, and they compete. And, you've got to drive your tank down to one area of the field, and then you've got to shoot a target that's so big, a certain distance away, and then you've got to shoot a different target with a machine gun, and then you've got to drive off to another position, and you've got to do something else, and you've got to go through deep water and wading and all this kind of stuff. And you have to do 3 laps. I think it's 3 laps. and the tank crew that completes it all with the least number of mistakes in the fastest time wins, and they become, tank champions. So there's the modern version, there's the World War II version, and they've got T-34-85s, and they are flogging these things. They're not mucking about, which is very
There's
cool.
more than one or two of those left in the world than tigers.
Yes, given how many of them they made. But yeah, YouTube videos of these guys flogging around in these World War II vintage tanks, absolutely flogging the guts out of them. You just can't imagine anybody doing that to their historic German equipment. But again, they've got so many of them, they don't care.
Gonna have to check that out. That sounds remarkably awesome.
It is incredibly interesting, and it's actually really engaging. It's kind of part rifle marksmanship, part NASCAR with tanks.
So it's like decathlon, except with tanks,
Yeah,
basically.
so there you go. There's the correct term. Decathlon with tanks. Although I'm pretty sure it's not 10 different sports, but I mean, I could be wrong. I've only watched a couple of videos, but it's incredibly interesting.
Nicely competitive too for the tank crews, so you've got that whole pride element.
Oh yeah, and they've got representatives from their country's army in the grandstand, so you can be guaranteed that if they don't do well, they'll be cleaning latrines for quite some time.
The dressage event will be rather boring though, because I can't see them going over the jumps particularly well.
Okay, you need to watch these videos. They get T-80s airborne.
Yeah, right.
I don't care that it is a little tank compared to its NATO counterparts. It's still not a little thing. And yes, they get hang time in them.
Did Australian farmers get a lot of the surplus, ex-Soviet collapse of the Soviet Union armored personnel carriers and stuff? I know a number of New Zealand farmers did. So
I assume
driving around in their BMPs.
Yeah, I assume the same has happened in Australia because you guys all know of the Bovington Tank Museum in England, in Bovington. Yep. Right. So a couple of years ago, they ran a restoration series on their Matilda II, which was a nuts and bolts resto of this tank, and they showed every stage of disassembly and cleaning and reassembly and that kind of stuff. Anyhow, there were some parts that they just couldn't get anywhere else but Australia. So they flew out to Australia and they visited this guy on his farm, and he was, or is, the Southern Hemisphere's go-to guy for Matilda II tanks, because his father bought several surplus after the war, and a lot of them ended up as gate guards and things like that. Well, he ended up with a bunch of them, and they have this Matilda II they flog around on their farming. So actually, this guy out from the Bovington Tank Museum came out and got some driving lessons in the Australian Matilda, and they've got drone footage of it. Very cool. So yes, I assume if military surplus has made its way to New Zealand, there's some of it in Australia. That wasn't very good. I heartily recommend watching that series on the Matilda Diaries too, by the way. It's very, very good watching.
What's that on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's just
Matilda
called
Diaries.
The Matilda Diaries, yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's a place down south of here, it's just south of Brisbane, somewhere where you
Mhm.
can go in tanks.
Australian Arms. Oh, no, okay. Did they do rides and stuff?
Yeah.
Because there's somewhere north of you, Clee. It's in Cairns.
Yeah, Cairns. There's a big there's
Yeah,
a big
this
tank museum there.
Australian Arms and Armour Museum.
Yeah.
They're doing a tank fest this year.
Really?
Yeah, you can go ride in their Panther.
When's that?
September, I think.
Ooh, okay. This is good.
That would be awesome.
It is.
Yeah.
The cost is $1 a metre.
Oh, well and truly worth it.
Yeah, and they take you on a 2.5 kilometre jaunt. So if you can afford it, like once in a lifetime experience, I think.
Yeah.
But-
Are they doing other things as well?
Oh yeah. There's rides and all sorts of stuff, but there's a bunch of displays.
Yeah, right.
They've got running Mark IV, running Panther, static Tiger, all sorts of stuff. They're finishing off a Jagdpanzer IV for it. Masses and masses and masses of stuff. Heaps and heaps and heaps of Shermans and Soviet stuff. It really must be an absolutely epic place, and we want to get up there and we want to do it. But with COVID the way COVID is, we just don't think we're going to get there.
You might be lucky and get locked in the state.
Yeah, wouldn't that be terrible? You have to camp out on the forecourt or something.
Yeah, get some nice weather, and
Yeah, no.
even if you get locked in the state, we've got a tank museum in the south and the north.
And the north, yeah. Just kill time by walking between the two or something.
Yeah, walk country. Yeah, I've been meaning to get to the one down south of Brisbane, it's in the Gold Coast hinterland.
Oh, okay, yeah. Right. Well, if it's on the Gold Coast, it's going to be what? Cheap and gaudy?
Yeah, it wouldn't be like the same experience you get in that tank museum. I think the tank you ride in is a modified tank.
Oh, that's not the Centurion that's had the turret taken off it,
Maybe.
because there's more than a few of them kicking about.
It might be something like that. It's not you don't just sit in the gunner's seat or something like
No.
that. It's a modified tank.
Yeah. They probably modified it to take 6 or 8 passengers by taking the turret off and putting seats in and stuff. I know there's a couple of those turretless Centurions kicking around. My ex-father-in-law knew a guy who was doing tank restorations for movies, and we visited his property one day. This is a very long time ago, and he had a Sherman that he was finishing off. But he had an M3 Stuart sitting up in his paddock, and he needed to move it, so he moved it while we were there, and I got to hop in that and ride in the turret while he moved that around his property, which was cool. No turret basket in that, so the propeller shaft was exposed, so I had to be really careful not to fall into the turret.
Wow.
Health and safety, it's a thing.
Not when you're riding around in a can full of explosives.
Yeah.
True.
Gee, that's a long time ago. Kind of surprised I remember it.
Early onset dementia.
What was I saying again?
No, nothing. It's okay. Shh.
Moving on. So yeah, dead keen to get up and see that Arms and Armour Museum. I actually want to get up to Puckapunyal. I haven't been up to Puckapunyal, so I want to do that. This is all post-COVID, of course.
And Gen Con 2022.
Yeah, I aim to get there for 2022, provided the whole world situation has sorted itself out. I'm certainly not going 2021.
I don't know that a lot of people will be. We shall see.
Don's going. There's a few of the Earth Dawn guys going.
Well, they're rabbiting on around this quote-unquote Delta variant, so there's mumblings about more lockdowns and stuff coming again. So
In the
who knows?
US.
Yeah, in the US.
Right. Because they were incredibly successful last time.
Exactly.
Take it from us, locking down for Delta is a hell of a great way to control it. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. Well, no, there's the new Lambda variant that the Japanese have been sitting on, apparently, because it's been going around. So we're going to hear about that one soon.
When everyone comes home from the Olympics. Yep.
Yep, that's the one. I think it's down in South America as well. So Peru.
Peru is full of Japanese expats.
Yep.
Now that was interesting information. I did not know that.
Yeah, going back to the 1920s and 30s, Japanese heavily settled in Peru. They're one of their most infamous prime ministers or presidents, I forget which term they use, bloke in the 90s who ruled for about 10 years was a Japanese ethnicity.
Okay.
His daughter is currently running for the same post, but she's not doing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, all throughout South America, the Japanese. Just like
Okay.
the Germans.
Just like the Germans.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that either. I'm going to have to go. Nice chatting with you guys.
Same.
Thanks,
Don't
Clee.
be a stranger.
I'll see you Monday. Well,
Yeah,
see you.
for
Dot,
less
dot.
enjoyable topics.
Oh, God. For continuation of the madness. Anyhow, we don't have to think about it till then. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, man. Yep, see ya.
See you guys.
Be well.
Bye.
Yeah, I really think I need to start polishing my resume.
Just another 140 bobs to go.
Yeah, you can tell I'm starting to get old. Well, older relative to the people that I'm employed with to do the same sort of work, because I dropped the Bullwinkle effect into a meeting the other day and I just got stunned silence. I'm like, come on, you guys must know Rocky and Bullwinkle. And then like, blink. I'm like, oh dear.
Yeah, that whole generation gap gets it grows bigger and faster every year. It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. It sure is. What's really baking me at the moment is the common sense gap appears to be widening at a ridiculous rate. Why is it called common sense?
Well, it's that, if common sense were common. But yeah, I don't have an answer to that. I use that one a lot. It's just like, really?
Because whoever came up with it was extremely cynical.
That's probably surprisingly accurate.
They could have been part of the Demonworld painting session. They would have fit right in.
Or a George Carlin fan, who knows?
Oh, I love George Carlin. He's the man. That whole sketch he did around saving the planet. Everybody needs to watch that 10 times and they need to digest it.
The man was ahead of his time.
Oh yeah. Absolute genius. Okay. Teeth and eyes. And skulls. And hair.
Did you do the little scally hand?
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. I'm actually at the touch-up stage. Because some of the stuff I want to do now is with contrast and excuse the noise. You can't do contrast where you've blurted other colour, because other colour shines through. So how big is this box of miniatures, James?
Pretty big. I think I've got a complete. I've definitely got a complete orc army, or an almost complete orc army. Pretty sure I've got a lot of army formerly known as Empire, apparently army.
Yep.
Yeah, not sure what else. It's been a while since I've gone through it all. I've got a lot of 1879 minis, a lot of the original prototypes as well. So
very cool. Those I am getting some more of, just because I enjoyed painting those British so much that I want to do some more.
I have to say, I really like the look of these Isthacs.
Oh yeah.
Like, not just... There's so much variety in them as well.
Yeah.
And
Very
if
much
I'm
so.
being quiet, it's because I'm putting together an order.
Mwahaha.
I have an order sitting in my cart at the moment. Very helpfully, if you log out, what's in your cart gets stored. So I log in, add a few more things to it, log out again. I think at last count it was 98 items. Just waiting for payday to pull the trigger. And everybody's crying, but Dan, you already have so much to do. I'm like, you're missing the point.
I always thought it was he who dies with the most miniatures wins.
That's right. But then someone went and spoiled it and said he who dies with the most painted miniatures wins. And I'm like, no.
Well, that just sucks.
No. It's taken all the fun out of it. You've just added pressure now.
Oh, now the answer to that one. The Perry brothers. The Perry twins.
Yeah, they're going to win.
Yep. The end. Okay, don't even try.
Yep. Is it them or is it John Stallard? Really?
Oh, good point. Okay.
Have you seen
I'm
that
sure that
man?
there's plenty of old grognards around with, literally boxes and boxes of, plastic Napoleonic miniatures, 1/72nd scale from back in the day.
Oh, yeah, or the lead 25 millimeters.
Or the lead, yep.
Yeah.
Real lead, not...
Yeah, absolutely, not pewter. Do you guys both know of the Great Wargaming Survey?
No.
Okay, so this is a magazine, and I apologise to the magazine, but I can't remember what it's called. But they run the Great Annual Wargaming Survey, or something named very similar to that, and have been doing so for the last 8 years. So I participated in the 2021 because that's the first time I learned about it, but they've just opened the 2021 edition, and I've completed that survey for myself. But there's an interesting question on there about how many miniatures do you own, and the categories are staggering. Like, I've got a lot of stuff, and I don't think I was even halfway down the list in my response. So
That kind of triggers another question. Have you guys considered doing Historicon? Which isn't necessarily, it isn't just historical, so...
Where
they
is
do
it?
sci-fi and stuff as well. Historicon, I know it's closer to the east coast than it is to the west coast. Let me have a quick look.
We're still talking the US though, aren't we?
We are, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the big historical miniatures convention. So it's like Gen Con, but for miniatures. And they do historical board gaming, the old chit counters, SPI, Avalon Hill style stuff. Naval battles, anything involving miniatures, basically.
I think I have heard of it. It does ring a bell.
Yeah, Valley Forge is where the convention's being held, November this year.
Right.
Historical Miniatures Gaming Society.
Yeah, I wouldn't have considered it. I've never actually travelled to the US outside of work, so...
Well, it's actually in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, so it's actually...
That is East Coast. It's about as far east as you can get.
No, not quite. Quite a way to go. That's about 6 hours drive for us to get there.
To Pennsylvania?
7 hours. Yeah.
Oh.
7 hours drive to get to the convention.
So Pennsy is not on the coast?
Pennsylvania is not quite on the coast. No,
okay,
no. You go over and you basically got New Jersey, New York, etc.
Right, okay.
Maryland, Delaware. Yeah, it's pretty close. Geographically, it's close to Philadelphia, so you're probably about 2 to 3 hours away from New York.
Right.
Just eyeballing it. We're fairly well positioned where we are. We're about 2 hours to Origins and 2 hours to Gen Con from where we live.
Nice.
8 hours to Dragon Con, 7 hours to Historicon.
So, geographically very central.
Pretty much. unless you've got something that's over on the west coast, which is a whole different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
We're 19 hours to get to Colorado, and that's still not anywhere close to the west coast. You've still got a long way to go. So a road trip. This is driving. So a road trip would be fairly major. But I'm guessing it's probably the same in parts of Australia as well. The roads here are pretty much, you get on them and you just follow them. So we used to do trips to Pennsylvania, which is 6 hours for us, and that wasn't a big deal. Dawn and I, when I was down in Florida, working in Florida, we would commute every weekend, 12 hours to Florida, 12 hours back again. So, driving just wasn't really an issue.
I think if I wanted to drive up and visit Maddie, it'd be a day.
Pretty much full day.
Full day.
It's 10 if you're speeding from here to Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't know how fast the trip to Sydney to Melbourne is.
Well, it's down the Hume, so trust me, it's at the speed limit, or you're a lot poorer than you were when you started.
What are the speed limits like over there?
100,
Australia?
100, 110. There's stretches of the Hume that are 110, but... So what does that work out to be? 65?
Yeah, 70 miles an hour over here would be close enough to 110. It's times 1.6, so it'd be 112, so yeah.
Right. So ish.
Most of the major highways over here are 60 mile an hour, or depending on what state you're in, some of them are 70. So, and usually you can get away driving up to 5 miles an hour over the limit. So,
unless it's Montana, in which case it's go as fast as you like and pay a $5 fine.
Well, yeah, point. But there's a lot of other things you can do there as well. It varies state by state. So some places you've got to be careful because they've got all manner of surveillance. Others you can pretty much just drive at the limit that the fastest vehicle happens to be driving at. So
I think there's still some de-restricted roads in Australia too, somewhere in the Northern Territory, but not close to here.
Not as many.
They were putting speed limits on the highways in Northern Territory when I left there.
Right.
110, basically.
Right. So those
although at the time I left, it was if you're south of Catherine and between Catherine and Alice, you're all right.
Right.
Speed cameras everywhere?
Where I am, yes.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, they're not quite so big a thing over here in the States. In most places, anyway.
I think I remember seeing an article, Texas basically made speed cameras illegal because of the dodgy operators that they employed to put them in and run them.
Yeah, we've got a small town here in Ohio which has a speed camera. I think they've got 2 of them, and they're just notorious for dinging people. And it's this one town, so craziness, but it is what it is. Hey, Ethereal's here. Hey,
how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Doing all right. Prepping some stuff for my wife's knighting tomorrow. We're in the SCA. She's a big deal.
Knighting?
Yeah, she's joining the Order of the Laurel.
That is so cool. I haven't been to the SCA in 30 years.
It's changed a little.
Well.
Alright, so I detect 2 voices from the Antipodes. Maddie, where are you from?
Antipodes.
He's not quite as Antipodean as I am.
Antipodes. Yes, I remember you well. The sod he owed me money. No.
Yep.
I found out today that an Australian has determined that Pythagoras was not the one who invented the Pythagoras theorem.
Because we like being contrary.
No, he or she is an archaeologist and dug up some Babylonian tablets from like 1,000 years prior, which looked like they were used to survey property, and used a whole bunch of the stuff that Pythagoras basically used in relation to angles and so on.
There
So
you go.
forth. Quite interesting.
There you go. So
apparently it's all about the marketing.
I think maybe by the time he came along, the stuff that was from Babylonia was probably out of copyright by then.
Yeah, I kind of think that would definitely be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of been kind of farmed around a lot. Hittites probably took it over and said, we can turn this to our nefarious purposes. And
I think there must have been a fair use thing in there somewhere.
oh, I'm sorry, I dropped that clay tablet.
I come with 12. Crash! 10 commandments.
No, it rained. Holds up handful of mud. Yeah.
Obviously his oven wasn't hot enough.
You know, I haven't run an Earthbound adventure in a while, but maybe next time there will be a copper merchant named Nasir whose goods have come into question.
With devices of dubious origin.
What's the 1879 equivalent of eBay?
Soho?
Jaime Cohen's Chinese Emporium.
Oh, yes. Anything special for me today, Mr. Wong?
That is in my 1879 Game Master's notes to work in at some point.
He'll be able to help you with your traveller's checks at any rate.
And there'll be a crate with a little creature on it that you're not allowed to basically get wet or feed after midnight.
That'd make
I mean, the creature also was not for sale.
That is also true, yeah. Good point. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
that'd make a good movie. Somebody should do that.
I can hear Matty negotiating for the rights right now. A remake. Set in Victorian England. Like a prequel to the prequel to the prequel.
Has anybody stirred in some Poe to 1879?
Some what,
Edgar
sorry?
Allan?
Edgar Allan
Oh.
Poe. It has a similar flavour to me. It's just an idea. I don't know whether it would work or not. But
Time periods, right?
Yeah. I think he died in, what, the 1840s or something?
49.
1849.
So many adverts on Twitch.
Yeah, sure are.
Well, we're certainly not seeing any of the revenue from them.
Of course not. If you really want to help, support the channel by subscribing.
Or subscribe to my own channel.
Subscribe to whatever channel you don't want to see ads on.
Yeah,
You'll see less.
yeah, not none, less.
I'm not a fan of Twitch's monetization options. I cordially despise the bits concept.
Do you want to explain what that is?
It's in Warhammer when you've got little pieces of miniatures left over. I'm not sure how to monetize those, but I got plenty of bits.
There's a number of people on eBay that sell Warhammer bits by the bit. So somebody's figured out how to do it.
So, Therial, you don't know Patrick Savelli at all, do you? I'm not sure what his moniker is for SCA.
That name does not ring a bell, but let me see if Facebook will give me his nom de guerre.
Sir William, I think.
Nope. Nope. Whereabouts is he?
Oh, he's up here in Ohio. He's been heavily involved with SCA for like the longest time, him and his wife both.
That's a different kingdom. I'm in Boston.
I was shot in the head with an arrow at an SCA meeting. It hurt.
We tried to get into it literally decades ago, but it wasn't really our thing.
Yeah.
Now, Livestream, that's a whole different. That's fun.
Lifesteal is where all of our bad actors have been going, so now that we're in the process of approving Lifesteal, I'm going, oh god, all of those terrible people are coming back.
Well, if you're into the recreational aspects, I get it from an SCA perspective, but if you're into basically just trying to kill each other with sharp objects, that's a whole. Yeah, the two are not necessarily compatible, I think.
I just mean people who don't listen to rules.
Right.
Like, don't rape people. That's a rule that we kick a lot of people out of, and they're really interested in Lifesteal.
That's like slightly more than a rule, isn't it? Isn't it kind of a law?
No.
Yes,
We used to do that in the good old. We used to do it in the university days with passive warfare, which was our anti-warfare movement, where you'd dress up in uniforms and kill each other with paper swords and stuff like that. But one of the more infamous university sets was my friend's warehouse inaugural Goat Fuckers Association, I believe. FIGFA for short, who are most notable though for wearing black armor, cardboard armor, because you weren't allowed to use sharp objects, and for raping the bodies of the dead. So you just did not want to die. Just period versus them. Just like this is not going to end well.
Mm-hmm.
great for public demonstrations. It's great.
Really good for morale.
Dear, oh dear.
Very good for morale. Yeah, better to have them on your side than fight against them. But
Goodness me.
the most horrible battle that we ever fought was against the Mapua Mudmen, which were actually mudmen and women. It was a clothing optional camp, and they wore their vision of woad was mud, and one of our weapons of choice was the water pistol.
What a pistol!
So you can see how this doesn't end well
No.
already. It's the whole Viking naked berserker thing charging at the field across you, towards you, and you just going, I actually don't want to hit these people with my water cannon.
There are never enough attractive people in those things to make that worthwhile.
Exactly. Clothing optional park. It is what it is.
I got into role-playing games through a gaming magazine called Shadis that had Earthdawn articles periodically. And when GURPS Celtic Myth came out, Shadis, for their April Fool's issue, presented 100 reasons to get naked in GURPS Celtic Myth.
I've found that magazine down now.
And how many people took that literally?
I mean, some of them were things like being born, dying, giving birth, taking a bath. But they did eventually get to more interesting ones, like you have a geese that says you can't be killed while you're naked. Someone else has a geese that says they can only be killed by someone who is naked.
Brilliant. It is brilliant.
Yeah.
Speaking of the SS's, we're circling back around again, Dan.
These circular conversations are awesome.
Well, that same battle against the Mapua Mudmen, we'd finished the battle. There was a 1879-ish, actually. They were basically British soldiers. They dressed up as British soldiers, and that was the thing. They apparently had a submarine, but nobody had seen their submarine commander basically appear. So we'd finished the battle. We had a campfire on the beach, sitting there with a friend, and we looked out at the ocean, and there was something moving in the water, and we thought, couldn't quite see it because it was dark. It was just a campfire, and it got closer and closer and closer, and I kid you not, this guy walked out of the water to our campfire wearing a German SS U-boat commander style outfit.
Yeah, right.
And with fake accent and the whole 9 yards, politely asked for directions to the British camp. And we asked him, what happened? He said, unfortunately, my U-boat sank out in the channel. It has taken me quite some time to cross the mud flats. And we're like, okay, away you go. And I have no idea where he came from to this day. It was just one of those truly weird things that kind of happens when you're... Yeah. Had the SS lapels and all the paraphernalia.
All right. Well, I think my voice test has succeeded. I will allow you to get back to your
recording
Radio Free 1879.
What? Huh?
Cheers.
Thanks. Surreal. In a good way.
Yeah, it was. Oh yeah, totally brilliant. But it was just one of those strange things that happens and that you don't ever have answers for, which is probably just as well, because it is one of those weird one-off things. So very elaborate. Anyway,
very good.
Hopefully we didn't scare him off. But anyway,
I don't think so.
So Maddie, you're going to have to do a Radio Free 1879. Is that right?
He is. That's what he's in
Well,
the middle
you
of.
are kind of. Well, you have to change it from Radio Free Earthdawn to Radio Free 1879.
That would require me shelling out another sum of cash a month that I can't really afford at the moment. And then, getting a whole new domain and all that. And I'm like, I'll just
let's not do
keep
that.
it all in one place.
Yeah.
It'd be
Are you running online, or are you running your games online?
Yeah. Kind of helps when your players are in Canada or in America.
Okay. Roll 20 or
No.
Duly noted.
It's okay. We used Roll20 twice, and I found it to be a massive distraction for the players, and it wasn't good role playing. So I just theater of the mind now.
Cool.
So we do our dice rolling in Discord with Carlton's exploding dice bot, which is a great little way to speed up your games. I mean, chucking physical dice is fun, but when you're trying to roll, step 20 5 times a minute.
okay. So
Yeah, duly noted.
explain to me how that works.
Okay, so with a core step, you're rolling various different dice that you total up, and you re-roll any dice that roll maximum results, right?
Yep.
So you have wildly variable results for rolling the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
This dice bot,
So
you
it's-
just plug in your step number, and it does all the math for you.
Okay. So, what's step 1?
D4 minus 2.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a table that tells you based on the step what die you have to roll, and what modifier
Right.
you apply. Okay.
There is, because it can get, unless you played the game enough to kind of memorize everything, then yeah, the progressions make sense. So the way that our Earthdawn /1879 core step works with the exploding dice, it's an n+1 variable. So normally, say you got a DR6, taking into account the explosion on the DR6, it'll average a 4, not a 3, 3.5 or 3.5, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If you've got a D8, it'll average a 5, and so on, up the food chain. So when you get to higher step numbers, which is what Maddie was talking about, step 20, for example, is I think D20 plus 2D6. Plus D8 plus DR6. It depends which version of the game you're running as well. There's some variations on that, but basically the progression for that is based on a D20, which will have an average of 11, a D8, and a D6, which will total an average of 9. 11 plus 9 is 20. I'm getting a little bit math intensive, but for the average player, you probably want to look it up on a table, and when you get to a certain point, it just gets hard, I think, for players to kind of memorize that. So having a dice bot's great.
So you did a couple of rolls in either the last one you published or the one before, which was step 25, step 24 or step 25.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's a D20 plus a couple of other dice.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Plus
Yeah, I don't know
extra
whether
dice for karma or expenditure and stuff like that.
Oh,
and
so you-
some other
Exactly.
things. Yeah. So you could be rolling 4 or 5 dice fairly quickly at low levels in the games.
Yeah, I mean, step 25, and I don't know whether this has changed in 1879, but it's D20, D10, D8, D4. So any of those dice could roll maximums, and then you're rolling another one of that particular type. So at a physical table, as a GM, I try to encourage my players to have multiple sets of dice, and more often than not, they're usually kind of rolling similar numbers, so they can kind of put sets aside. But I guess the key thing having a dice bot is you don't need to worry so much about that. You just pump in the number and it'll work it out for you, which is not a bad thing.
Well, it really speeds up the math of it, you know, when you're trying to add an 11 and a 6 and then another 6 and then a 4 and then a 7 on your T8.
Exactly.
I've got no idea what the heck that is without me actually trying to sit down and figure it out. Speed math is no longer one of my skills.
So the system accounts for the fact that the lower sided die types explode more readily than the higher ones.
Yeah, correct. I mean, if you take a DR4, it's going to explode 25% of the time because you can roll a 4. And then, of course, you've got another 25% chance that you're going to get another explosion, so on and so forth. But it's capped by the fact that it's a D4. The most that it can roll is essentially a 3, actually. Whereas as you go higher up the food chain, by die types, D6, D8, D10, D12, and D20 is the largest, which is used. Your odds of rolling an explosion are increasingly fewer, but the range of values that you can roll is increasingly large as well. All the dice design originally with Earthdawn First Edition was done by Greg Gordon, who's a luminary who's done various other games like Torg, and who's worked on West End games. And he's a math guy. He's math guru. So there is a lot of mechanical math theory, I guess, behind a lot of this. But again, the original game, of course, is a 90s game. So back in those good old bad old days, you know, we didn't have the wild access to the internet that we have now, and free access to dice rolling tools and all that kind of stuff. So, and game design theory, of course, has moved on too.
Yeah.
But then again, and I use this not anecdotally, having attended many Pathfinder Society events and Adventure League sessions, the whole act of rolling dice and even adding basic numbers seems to be very difficult for a lot of people. You know, just even taking a DR20 and adding a modifier, it's kind of amusing hearing, what dice do I roll again? Okay, and I add ruffling of paper.
Right.
I add 13 to that, right? So, you know, I think that's more perhaps more telling on the education system than anything else.
Right.
But
we don't want those guys playing Infinity then.
no.
Okay.
But yeah, good point on the dice roller, Matty. I didn't. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of dice rollers generally. I'm glad that that's actually working well.
Oh, that dice roller. Oh, the exploding dice bot is just an absolutely fantastic tool. I mean, it was developed originally for Shadowrun, and you know what Shadowrun's like, rolling 20 or 30 D6s. Yeah, oh boy, Shadowrun.
Bucket full of dice.
Well, that's just to get started.
Yeah, I completely reworked core step for Amaric to only use D6s, and the maximum number of D6s that you'll roll from a step 40 is 10, which is still a lot of dice, don't get me wrong, but they are, and particularly since they all can explode, but 10 D6 is kind of about as many as you ever really want to roll. So
this is where the dice pool idea for Interceptor came from. Cap the number of dice you're rolling.
Right. And the idea then being that if you go higher than that, then it just modifies your target numbers. You're still only ever rolling a maximum cap of 10.
Yep.
Yeah, I crunched that little puppy to death in any dice. I think I mentioned that with Todd. So. Yeah, with Amaric, the intent was basically so if you did want to look up a step number, any number at all, you can basically do it all in your head. with Core Step, you can do it. You can memorize it. If you're using 3rd edition Earth Dawn Core Step, then it's basically multiples of 7. But I mean, that's still not easy to remember. But under Amaric, it's basically take your step number, divide by 4. That's the number of d6s, and then add the remainder. So, step 7 is 1d6 plus 3. Step 8 is 2d6, 2d6 plus 1, further up, all up the food chain. So anybody can basically do anything on the fly.
As long as they can divide by 7 in their head.
Divide by 4, but yeah.
Oh, 4, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, but yes, you're right, yeah. But it's consistent, so. And it doesn't get around the issue of still rolling dice and then having to add all the results up. So that's something that a dice roller will always do better at.
Well, it is very quick when it is not being smashed by someone using its index lookup feature. What's that? You want to search for every instance of a word in every Shadowrun book ever? Yeah, no worries. We can do that for you if you're a Patreon supporter.
Oh, okay.
It brings the bot to a crawl, though, for literally everyone else at the time.
Yeah, we basically just build all our stuff on Roll-R20. It doesn't take long. The API is really mind-bogglingly simple to use. Putting macros together is mind-bogglingly simple to use, so. Though having said that, as you quite rightly said, Maddie, if, suspension of disbelief can be a little challenging. But we also use it as a dice roller, so,
Yeah. The 2 games we played that we used Roll20 maps and encounter stuff on are in the Earth Dawn section of the podcast, episodes 23, 24. No, that's not right. It's 27, 28, 29, and then like 40 through 43. And yeah, they're not. I don't want to rag on players because they're great, but they're less good because the players were distracted by the maps and having the map, and I didn't like that for the podcast. We're trying to tell a story, and it's hard to tell a story if you're just saying, "Oh yeah, I moved my token over here." That doesn't seem
right. Yeah.
You're not actually...
Yeah, as soon as you basically present a battle map, that's, oh, here we go, we're into tactical combat, or, things are going to be turn by turn, round by round, and the role-playing kind of ceases.
Yeah, that's what I didn't like about it, so I try not to do it. I try not to do it anymore, I should say.
Yeah, it comes down to the style of the game, though, I think, as much as anything, too. If you go and look at, and again, I'm not harping on Pathfinder Society, it's just some experiences that my wife and I have had. But I think it's fair to say, having spent a lot of time in our friendly local gaming store, that a lot of the gaming that goes on is actually that. It's pretty much tactical battle map stuff, encounter by encounter. You need to do this and do that. You're working together as a team or independently, and you're trying to solve puzzles and goals using a set of rules that makes that happen. And that's the enjoyment that you get out of it. And there's a little bit of role-playing in it because some people like to role-play, but a lot of people don't. They just want to play the rules and kind of play a board game-esque experience.
Well, it's easier.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong. But again, we can talk about this again till the cows come home, because every GM's different.
Mm-hmm.
But every player experience, it's actually getting all your players on the same page. What exactly do you want? Do you want to have the immersive role-playing experience where you're talking silly voices, or is it something that you really want? My kids, for example, love hugely extensive backstories and weirdly exotic characters because they're all huge anime fans, and that can be very challenging to try and accommodate in games. But other friends of theirs who've come across for gaming, because you're playing D&D. Well, it's like D&D, but it's actually this. Oh, it's just like D&D. They just want to come along and kill some monsters and take their stuff in a board game, video game style experience. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to rant or stand on a soapbox there, because we've all got our stories. But definitely trying it. It's interesting, trying some of these things and then seeing whether they work or not. Theatre of the mind is a dying art, sadly.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I like what Maddie's doing. I like that, because I don't have to watch anything. I can listen to it while I'm doing something else, and I get the descriptions, so I can form the view of what's going on. It's like listening to an audiobook, because what's going on is being described, and it's not a visual thing. So.
Yeah, I think your medium is especially challenging, Maddie, because it is voice. So, like a good high quality, the good old serialized stories that were on the radio long before we had television. That in itself is a great art. So, if you can get that out of your players and relay that out to an audience, that's actually that's doubly a win.
Yep.
We do try. We do try.
I still think you should be handing out an award for the player that gets these companions' names wrong the most often in any given session.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that character's name again? You've only been travelling in with on the same airship with him for the last 6 months. Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's Bob. It's always Bob.
It's Bob. No, it's Kate. It's definitely Kate. We want to take shortcuts here, so it's always Kate.
I don't consider that to be a problem with the game, I consider that to be a feature.
Oh, I'm not suggesting it's a positive or negative. It just is. I get some of my best laughs out of the different ways they go about mangling their companion characters' names. It's hysterical.
Well, it's not going away.
Oh, no,
Spoiler.
I don't care. It's great entertainment. It's really enjoyable, and I wish more people knew about it and listened to it. So,
Well, maybe. Some say maybe.
maybe. You never know. You have to start somewhere. Wow, and we've just circled all the way back around to the start of the conversation.
What was that about the SS in 1944?
Any German uniform.
And blankets.
And blankets. Soviet blankets. I'm done, gentlemen. I've actually finished some miniatures during a live stream. Okay, so we've only just put the ink on them, so they're not quite finished, but... Heckin'.
But they still look damn good.
Three miniatures done to a tabletop quality.
They do. So this pace, you might actually have a unit done by the end of the year.
What do you mean a unit?
Sorry.
This is a unit. Look, on the sticker...
An army.
It says 3, see? It's a complete unit. I've got an army of orcs. Enough to play. So 10, 12 units, I think. It's enough to play a reasonable game of Demonworld. So I can field an Elven army, an Esthak army, and an Orc army now of reasonable size. So I've got to start in on the Empire, kingdoms, because it's not one empire anymore. It's 9 kingdoms.
Just don't name them after 9 different types of pasta.
No, when I say we, I've used names out of the background of Third. So those names are all existing. So the Markelm was a province in the Empire. It's now a kingdom. Yeah, so at least as far as humans is concerned, there's actually a little bit of continuity between third and what will be fourth. Everything else, I've just made a bunch of stuff up. I mean, I've now got 73 starting factions. So there's some variety.
I look forward to the naval rules. That's great.
Oh, did you see the naval miniatures I posted?
I did.
Yes.
I did.
So
Oh, nice.
an elven flotilla is done. I'm eyeing off doing the dwarf one today, later, when I've finished doing chores. So yeah, they're great little miniatures too. I'm hoping to get some of the buildings from the hybrid board game. Yeah.
Empire's Range. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep, I have a reasonable number of those as well.
yeah. Cool. Thank you both for joining. Thank you everybody else that joined too. This morning was incredibly enjoyable. It's taken what was an extremely difficult week and has turned my mood around. So thank you both very, very much.
Thanks for doing this for us.
I
To do
thoroughly
what
enjoyed
Maddie
this.
said.
Yeah. You two gentlemen enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys soon. Next week, maybe.
Indeed.
Sounds great. Look after yourselves. Be well. Stay well. Everybody else is listening. Stay well.
Yeah.
Be well.
Thanks, folks.
Catch you later.
See ya.